The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Big thank you to our sponsors. Yes, without them, we simply would not be here. Michael Guerin, no time for idle chat today because, man, we've got a show ahead of us.
We have, and we've got the Australians are here, Greg, and it's been a long time since we've had that level of trans-Tasman rivalry, and it's a lot bigger when you have the potential favourite for the New Zealand Cup lining up in the Ashburton Flying Stakes on Monday. So big hi to everybody around Australasia. I know we have plenty of viewers over there as well. When you think copy that and hot and treacherous Thursday night, Greg, into Majestic Cruiser Saturday night at Menangle, into virtually everybody else who's got any chance of making the New Zealand Cup field on Monday, this is a massive, massive weekend for the landscape of New Zealand and Australasian harness racing. Dovetailing out of the news, of course, that Akuta, Greg, Mark Purdon coming out and publicly stating, I almost certainly won't be at the IRT New Zealand Cup for him. So lots of things moving around. I know you've got a special feature later on Rock and Roll Do. It'll be cool to get to know more about him.
Yeah, it will be, and it's courtesy of our good friends at Trot's Vision in Victoria. Let's get straight into it. Go back to Addington Raceway from last Friday night. Richest race on the night. New Zealand Bloodstock Standard Bred 2-year-old harness million in front, Merlin. He'd got away with absolute daylight robbery, Zachary Butcher. Another great example of his brilliance in front. Merlin holds off. Don't Stop Dreaming, who was outstanding. Son of Zach. Final Collect was also very good. And Alta Meteor not too far away, but he's unbeaten 8 from 8, Michael, and once he got the lead and those sectionals, they were never going to catch him.
He's fast, really fast, great leg speed horse, but obviously a very determined type of horse too, because he's been Alexandra Park in March to win a major race over Beckham. He's been through Cambridge to win a race he probably couldn't win about a month ago, and then he's come here and beaten an All-Stars Juvenile in a harness million, which used to be the Sale Series, and that hasn't happened for a long time. They've won an awful lot of these, so he's a good horse and he's well trained. And Barry Purdon was saying after the race, because Barry was still in Auckland, Scott Phelan deserves so much of the credit. He's done so much work with this horse, with the other horses we'll see later in the 2-year-old trot, but also over the last couple of months, Gregory, when Barry's been laid up. So well done to Scott. He was really satisfied the other night. And for Merlin now, the question is, do we think he is as good as Don't Stop Dreaming, or was that just a barrier draw situation? I'm not sure, Greg. He won't be any better sitting in the trail. Whether he can beat Don't Stop Dreaming or Beckham sitting in the trail, I guess we'll all find out together over the coming month. But this is a good horse and a well-trained horse. And I don't say Zach Butcher's the best driver in the country, but I don't think there's anybody driving better.
And that was another great example of that on Friday night. Got a couple of heats to come in the Woodland Sires Stakes. Of course, the big final on Cup Day. Alexandra Park, Michael, on Thursday night. Looking forward to seeing Sevi again. Where do you think he's at? And he should secure his spot in the South Island's big dance.
Yeah, well, he ran second at Cambridge, so he'll be in. So he's close enough to in. And his second was to Merlin, so that form's been franked. I spoke to Tony Herlihy this week and he said, look, we're happy. The horse is getting better every run, as you would expect. It's a lot trickier, Greg, than what used to be, which is bring them up and race them through these series. They have to be bought up for February, March, then let down and come back again. And I think on some of these horses, they do better than others, like Akuta, and we're seeing them taking longer to come up. I think he'll win on Thursday night. It's not a deep heat. Then Tony gets to make the decision, do I take him to Christchurch? I think he will, because he would join Bolt for Brilliance, who will head there next week via Kaikoura. So I think Sevi will win. He's my bet of the week, actually. And I think he'll head to Christchurch, but I do think the first 2, maybe 3, out of that heat are very good. I can just see this crop starting to deepen up a lot, Greg, with some of the horses we're going to see on Monday.
It's Magic Monday on Monday, and they have the final heat in the series. Don't Stop Dreaming outside second row, courtesy of already having won a heat at Addington Raceway a couple of weeks ago. You've got a horse that's well back. Let's have a look at the market for the final on Cup Day. Don't Stop Dreaming, 350, Merlin the same. 380, Beckham. He's been excellent at the trials, Michael. He's been well spruiked by the stable. He's come up with a nice barrier draw if the ballots come out. There'll be barrier 4 for him. Ultimeteor's drawn up a lot better for Monday's heat, but I'm loving this series, as I always do, because there's not one standout. Normally by now we've gone, okay, well it's $1.90 or it's $2. That's not the case this year.
Well, usually it's at the back end of a season. This time it's in the middle of a campaign. The season's become 2 campaigns, the early campaign and the second half of the season campaign. So the form's not as definitive as it usually would be, for example, when this was in May and you might have had Lazarus racing in it, because this is, of course, still the 2-year-old version. I think Beckham's a pretty good horse. He'll need to be a very good horse to beat Don't Stop Dreaming and Merlin in the final. But this week, Greg, on Monday, coming into barrier 4, as you said, you can see him getting the lead potentially. And then Don't Stop Dreaming's qualified for the final. Now, he's drawn the outside of the second line. If he comes around, he isn't going to attack his own stablemate. I can see this being a heat where Beckham gets his opportunity to win. Whether he's as good as Don't Stop Dreaming, well, he hasn't won yet. Whereas Don't Stop Dreaming's only been beaten once. So I just think it's an interesting race for punters, and you need to be really cunning about sire stakes heats, punters, because some people are trying to do different things than other people. Some people are trying to win or run second to get into the final. Other people are qualified for the final, and Ashburton's a hell of a place to get a headache before New Zealand Cup Day if you give your horse too hard a run. That's my warning about this race. How it pans out exactly may come down to the early sectionals and how much petrol Beckham needs to use, if in fact it goes forward, Greg, as opposed to Don't Stop Dreaming settling, then coming around to potentially sit parked.
Also excellent in that Harness Million was son of Zach. He goes around, or son of Mac rather, he goes around in the last race at Addington on Friday night. We'll leave the size stakes there because there's a lot more to talk about after Monday. What about Copy That starting off 55 metres? His Cup Day driver, the driver of the horse, of course, who won the IRT New Zealand Cup last year, Blair Orange, making the trip north. How do you rate his chances against Hot and Treacherous this week?
I'll be stunned if he can win. In the time I'll be doing harness racing at Alexandra Park, I don't think any horse has ever won a 55 metres over 2200, not in a semi-open class race. Admittedly, the front line and 10 metres aren't too strong, but the 20 metres is very strong, and Typo and Raven Banner, these are decent horses. Now, that 35 metres in front of Copy That. Now, a couple of starts ago, Typo went 243 from a stand, so he can go that. If he goes that, Copy That's got to go 240. Now, the national record's actually underneath that, but does he want to do that on the back of coming back from Victoria? He's an absolute no bet for me. Don't be lulled into backing him by the fact that Blair is heading north. That's because Maurice McKendry stuck with Hot and Treacherous because that's going to be his New Zealand Cup drive. Had a good talk to Ray Green. He said if he hits the line, we'll be happy. Quite remarkably, he's actually having another run next week, Greg, at Cambridge. So he'll race Thursday night, he'll head to Cambridge next week, and then the flight goes down on the Tuesday before the Cup. It actually goes Melbourne Cup Day. So he's a no bet tomorrow night, or Thursday night if you're watching this on Thursday. But Greg, Hot and Treacherous might be as well. Hot and Treacherous still has to give Typo and Raven Banner 20 metres. So if they really scoot here, it's going to be an awfully difficult race for those back markers. A very big warning race. These two good horses off 40 and 55, they're here to try and get a pathway to the New Zealand Cup. I don't think their connections care too much about this particular race.
All right, concentrating on the ATC, they've got about 5 or 6 meetings coming up through November and December. They've got Christmas at the races at the top of the park and the like. So go to alexpark.co.nz, book your Christmas function. They are selling out very fast. And while we're on them, Michael, some big news and a big decision to be made next week for the ATC.
Yeah, so it's a long, complicated story. We haven't got into it too much because of the commercial sensibilities, and of course it's also been in front of the courts, which is one of the reasons we haven't discussed it a lot in the box seat. But now it's gone to the members, it's publicly out there. They obviously got themselves enormously in trouble with their developments, which may not have been their fault. It may be the fact that the primary original contractor didn't do what was asked of them. The developments had to stop and restart again. Let's not go over that. Long story short, they got to $100 million in debt, or 120 depending on who you ask. They've dug themselves most of the way out of that. They've sold a large piece of land for $51.6 million at Alexandra Park, but now they're going to ask the members to vote next week because, Greg, they still owe between 50 and 60 million, which is a lot of money. And they're going to ask the members next week to vote on an offer for $100 million for Franklin Park, the Pukekohe training track. The members will have to decide whether that goes ahead. Then HRNZ will need to also ratify that. The deal will only go ahead if the land on the outskirts of Pukekohe Township is rezoned. If it's rezoned residential, the buyer will pay the $100 million. That money goes to the ATC. They dig themselves out of the crap, Greg. There was a time a couple of years ago when harness racing in Auckland could have been shut down. And maybe the only way out of this was the banks foreclosing and Alexandra Park being lost, which would have been a disaster for the industry, a disaster. This will avert that. This will stop that happening. And Alexandra Park will have enough money to build another training centre, purpose-built and more modern. It will also be out of trouble. This offer may never come again. Yes, maybe in 5 years' time there'll be a bigger offer, but we can't wait 5 years, Greg. The interest, I believe, from my research, is around $500,000 a month. $500,000 a month. That's $17,000 a day. So if this offer goes through, if we get the rezoning, I implore the members to vote on this. Get this horrible thing off the back of the Auckland Trotting Club. They'll still have the retail space, which is leased, to come through. They'll be able to boost stakes, and Alexandra Park will be set up and there for the rest of time, hopefully. We can worry about the training centre later because they will build one. That will be a factor. But if we don't vote for this, Greg, we are talking about a club with a $50 million monkey on its back and a bank which may not be interested in carrying that sort of freight heading forward. So I hope the members vote for it next week. We shouldn't have got in the situation, but there's no point arguing about that. It's a situation we're in. Let's fix it. Yes, we've lost a lot of land, but we still have the most important part, which is the part right in the centre of Auckland.
Yep, absolutely. So a lot to evolve out of that story, and we'll get the latest information for next week's show and beyond. Thanks for clarifying that, Michael. Right, the road to the IRT New Zealand Cup continues. And Michael's just mentioned Akuta, whether he goes there. 80-20's the theorem at the moment. Here he is winning the Flying States. This is him back to his best, Michael. 54-1. Brilliant performance from Republican Party, having to come out and around and try and run him down. He had to come round invitation only. That's Franco Mack to the inside. But Mark indicating that the decision around a cup start would hover around starting at Ashburton. Now he's not going there, he's going to Kaikoura. The odds are diminishing by the day, one would think, of a start in the cup.
I would say there's no chance he starts, Greg. I thought that for a while, to be honest. It's a deeper cup and a better cup than people thought it was going to be. Rock and Roll Do, Majestic Cruiser have joined the party. BD Joe has stepped up to the party. All of a sudden, it's not Mark worrying about beating Self Assured, a horse he knows. He's got to beat a whole bunch of other horses. So I think he doesn't start. I think it's a good decision not to start. I think he was good the other day, but he's still quite fat-looking, Greg. I think he's going to turn into a real tank of a horse. He just won't stop eating, and that's going to help him next year when it comes to Auckland Cups and Messengers and obviously the race by Grins. So I don't think it needs to be rushing into this cup, Greg. But they do have the option, of course, of if something happens at Ashburton and some good horses don't go as well as they could go, to go well at Kaikoura and change their mind. But they're saying 80-20. I think it's 95-5 he doesn't go.
Yep, I have to agree with that. That was the Air Park Canterbury Group 1 these days, Flying Stakes. Excellent Franco Mack, Republican Party, and here's Herbie making up good ground as well. Michael, the performance of BD Joe, like it wasn't a cup race or even a key lead up to the New Zealand Cup, but he can't go any better than he is at the moment. Once he rolled round to the front for Benjamin Butcher, well, there was no stopping him. All-American Lover was pretty good in second.
He was outstanding. I'm not sure there's a horse in the country at the moment who would have gone any better than BD Joe. Self Assured would have gone as good. I don't think there's another horse in the country who could have done what he did. I don't think Spankum's going good enough. I don't think South Coast Arden's going good enough to do what BD Joe did off a 20-metre handicap. And I'm yet to be proven that Copy That's going good enough to do that. So, on the New Zealand form, the spring, Greg, he should be second favourite of the New Zealanders for the Cup. Obviously Rock and Roll Do's going to join the party, and so is Majestic Cruiser. But yeah, He's absolutely flying. He's a horse who's stood up. I'm not sure he'll win the Cup, but he'll win a big race this campaign or into next season, Greg, here. He's a horse with a big future. And, of course, I don't think the standing start stuff's really his go. I think the best version of Beanie Joe could be the free-for-all, could be a Cambridge Flying Wild, it could be anything, could be the race by Grins. But he's doing a great job, Greg, and he's a well-trained, and last week, well-driven horse.
Yeah, fourth in that race, the Falcon, an improved performance, goes to Addington Raceway. Quick look at that market for you now. It's the Jim Dalgetty handicap pace, of course. It's Legends Night with IRT. The Falcon $5.50, Steal the Show $5, $7.50 Dashing Major, $5 Smithy, Terra and Krug, $9 starting off the 40 metres, trying to get his Cup campaign back on track. Michael mentioned before, there's an Aussie in town. His name is Rock and Roll Do, or Hendo as he's known around the stables, and Trot's Vision have been out and about and got this story for us on this superstar from Victoria.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to be in a property like this. We've got stables and outside yards here for approximately 30 horses, and then we've got a 1,300 metre all-weather track. Yeah, it's taken it quite a while and a lot of hard yards, but yeah, it's slowly coming together, and yeah, it's a great property for all the horses. You know, for the family and that as well. It's a great property to have the kids burning around.
And family has been a major influence as to why you've moved here to Lake Burrumbeet.
When we first looked around for a property for moving out of town, Jen was really keen to find something that had somewhere where she could trail ride, and especially with young kids coming along. So we looked for 12 months and this one popped up, and we came for one inspection, and basically, yeah, this will be the place. It's great. We're a short distance off Lake Burrumbeet, a couple of little tracks and that we can just jump on the horses from here to there, and the girls can go trail riding and do all the things that they want to do. So yeah, it's been ideal.
My observations are you're almost horseman first, trainer second. Is that potentially an influence from the late Alan Tubbs and Gavin Lang, who I know had a major impact on you?
Yeah, those two guys were enormous for myself as a trainer. Both very different styles of trainers. You know, Tubbsy, never carried a watch. He always went by the feel of the horse. And Gavin, I believe, was ahead of his time. You know, he had spas and walkers and swimming pools and all that, 30, 40 years, what people have just sort of introducing now.
It's just beautiful, the facilities you have with the lake. It's like a man and his horse, and just a special time together.
Yeah, it is. It's lovely, and especially when you can get on the other side of the trees like it was today. The wind had dropped down and the lake was nice and peaceful, and every now and then you get a carp jump out over top of you, and that it is nice and peaceful. And yeah, and those things are not only good for the horse, are they, but they're good for yourself mentally, to get out there and forget about things and just take everything in.
I'm sure when it's just you, a man and his horse, and Rock and Roll Do down there, it's a nice bonding moment for you both.
Yeah, he's an absolute gentleman of a horse. I think when my youngest daughter Annabelle got interviewed on Trot's Vision for the pony trots the other week, they asked her what her favourite horse was, and she said Hendo, which is Rock and Roll Do, and probably everyone thought, oh yeah, that's because he's the fastest, but it actually has nothing to do with how good he is at all. It's just that, she goes and walks him in and out of the paddock and pats him every night. He's just the kindest of natures, and we have a close relationship because, he's been, I guess early days, he's been a lot of hard work. So him and I probably spent a lot of hours out on the track fighting to get him to where he is today. Yeah, it's been a really good relationship and bond, and it's a lot friendlier now than what it was when it started.
The Victoria Cup, this is as big as it gets really in harness racing. What would it mean to you to win this race?
It's well known that we sort of class the Victoria Cup as our Cox Plate. It's an elite level race. So, these are the best that we have around. So to have a horse like Rock and Roll Do, just to be in that category is exciting in itself. So it's a special race. I mean, these races these are what you dream of. So not only winning, but being part of it. So, it's a really exciting week, but he's just in a really good zone. His preparation has gone perfectly. Even his last two wins, even though they're in group company, he hasn't gone to his bottom. He's won with something in hand. So yeah, it's not going to be an easy race at 22:40 at Melton, unless you're in front. Of course, that changes things, which would be nice, but he fills me with a lot of confidence, and I'm sure he'll run a really good race.
So he's arrived. Michael, we've both spoken to Mick Stanley. He's very pleased with the way he's travelled. We're having a look at the market now for the Ashburton Flying Stakes. Look, it's with New Zealand Bloodstock Air Freight, $3 self-assured, $3.20 for Rock and Roll Do. Then you're out to $6.50 BD Joe's come up with Barrier 1. How do you assess this year's Flying Stakes?
Well, as you would know, talking to Mick Stanley, the horse didn't work for 4 days, from last Thursday till Sunday, so he can't be at his peak. He can't even be close to his peak for this Monday. I think they're going there as a trial. Sure, they'd love to win, but from Barrier 8, they'll mooch away, get in the field. Whether he comes and sits parked a la Victoria Cup, I guess we'll find out. But he can't be at his peak, and we know Self-Assured is. Self-Assured was excellent at Methven. This is the week to back Self-Assured. This is the week. I'm not saying he'll win, but you don't get $3 very often for him, Greg, and he has an enormous advantage over Rock and Roll Do. Standing starts, he knows all the horses, he's well drawn, he's happy and healthy and racing out of home. So I think Self-Assured's clear top pick. If Rock and Roll Do comes and beats him, Greg, by sitting parked this week, the New Zealand Cup is over. They're just over. If he can beat them this week, there's no chance they'll beat him at Addington. I don't think he will, but I'm really interested to seeing how close he gets.
Yeah, it's going to be a cracking contest on Monday, 4:55 for the feature, a race, of course, that Self-Assured has won before. And just on South Coast Arden, spoke to Brent Mangosh yesterday. He's a lot happier with him. He's around $11. New Zealand Cup market as it sits at the moment, equal favourites, $3.40, Self-Assured and a Rock and Roll Do. And then you get out to $9, BD Joe, copy that. $11 at Cooter, Mars will be $15. Older Wise Guy, Majestic Cruiser at $13. Michael mentioned that he is in this week. With Brecon Farms, let's have a look at the trotting performance of the week. And wow, Muscle Mountain and the XCM Sport Canterbury Park Trotting Cup at Group 3 level. The quarter down the back, Michael, 8 to the 400, 27.9, put paid to every horse in this race. Most notably, Sunday Sun galloped in the same spot again, still some issues there.
This is what he can do when he's really happy, Muscle Mountain. The question for us now, because he'll just win the mile at Ashburton on Monday in this type of form. The question is whether he can do this over 2 miles, because everybody's thinking about the Dominion. I don't see any reason he can't, but I'm not sure he'll be as potent. Good drive, Ben Hope. This is a wonderful horse. I love the horse. Sunday Sun was amazing in the last 600. As good as any trotter's gone here, he was enormous, but yeah, question marks over Sunday Sun. I think they'll get him right, but I don't want to be taking 2.9 for the Dominion just yet until somebody proves that to me.
20 wins from just the 33 starts for him. Most expecting him to win again on Monday. Market looks like this for the sprint over the 1700. $1.70 for him. $1.40 for him. $5 for Majestic Man. This has been a good race for him in the past. And the rest, well, 5 Wise Men, who wasn't too bad, resuming at $10. That Dominion market, Michael mentioning it's closing up a little bit with Bolt for Brilliance to be added to the mix. And just on him, Michael, he misses a run this week, but we do get to see him at Kaikoura.
Yeah, he was given 55 metres over 2200. It was quite a big field. There's actually 12 acceptors, so he would have had to go around a lot of horses. And Tony said, I just don't need to do that. He'll go to Team Telfer's place at Stonewall Stud, work on their very good track. He said, I can work as fast as I want. It's almost as good as a race. Then next Thursday, he floats down to Kaikoura. He'll start off a 15-metre back mark and the $30,000 South Bay Trotters Cup into the Dominion. Of course, there's no trot race for a horse like him on the first day of the carnival. So 2 starts into the Dominion for him. Tony still hopeful he'll be able to get a flight then back to Auckland. That's a crucial part, back to Auckland, so he can bounce across the Tasman for the Inter-Dominions. That is also the hope for horses like Majestic Cruiser and Rock and Roll Do. If they don't get that flight back, Greg, I would suggest none of them will be going to the Interdoms.
All right, really interesting times with regard to that terrific series at the back of November and into December. About to go to our first break here on your box seat. As we do so, a Trans-Tasman victory for this horse, Aldebaran Keeper. A brilliant win to win the Oaks over there for Michelle Wallace and Bernie Hackett. As we go to the break, let's have a look at her form and how she did it, coming from a long way back in the hands of Chris Alford.
Mum pays the bills coming through, and wide around Aldebaran Keeper from well back is flashing at them. Aldebaran Keeper just needed daylight, found it and zoomed home to win.
Welcome back into your box seat. Yes, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. $150,000 went on the line for the 2-year-old fillies. New Zealand Bloodstock Harness Million Race with Millwood Nike taking this one out. Here she is in front, Michael. A new role for her, but once she got there, she dominated, beating Love Struck, and there's just there's very little to dislike about her. In fact, I'll get to Michael post our interview with Frank Endicott, the part owner of the Flying Filly.
But it is Millwood Nike. She's on the high road and going places big time. Millwood Nike won it a couple of lengths and beat home Love Struck. Third across was Mystify Me from Jude.
Well, aren't you having a ride?
Oh, 5 in a row, Greg. It's unbelievable. It's so exciting to have a horse like this, and she proved how good she was again tonight. So loving it.
Look, you've been in the game for a long time. I know you had a wee time out of it with obviously your commitments to rugby league, but now you're back, bigger than ever, and you've found yourself your best horse by the look of it.
By far, yeah, by far. She's special, and I hope it continues, Greg. It's going to take a good one to beat her at the moment, the way she's going.
Yeah, it looks like a great group of people you've got involved, including your son Shane. So it's a pretty special time for you and the family.
Oh yeah, look, there's 5 of us in the horse, but all the wider family were here today, and they enjoy it just as much as us, and that's what makes it. So it's not the stake money or anything like that. It's the enjoyment that goes with it, and it's exciting times. I just hope it doesn't finish for a long time.
Looks like a cheap price tag now, the $75,000. I'm sure at the time it wasn't, but when they go through a New Zealand Bloodstock sale like that, and you find one, and just explain to me how you got involved and how you got involved with Mark Purdon, Hayden Cullen, Natalie Rasmussen.
Well, it comes from the manager of the syndicate, actually, Steve Byrne, and he's known Mark for a long time, and he came to me and said, Frank, would you be interested in going into a yearling that Mark just bought from the sales? And I asked what the breeding was, and I quite liked the breeding. Albuquerque had won 8 races by Captain Treacherous, and and then Mark apparently put in the book Must Buy, and that was good enough for me. I mean, he's the best judge in Australasia, and as soon as I saw that, I was in, and I wouldn't hesitate again either.
No, that's great to hear. I can see you being more heavily involved going forward, and with this filly, whatever she's doing now, just looking at her as a specimen, it's only going to get better by the look of her.
Well, yeah, she looks more like a 3-year-old than a 2-year-old, Greg. When we went into the stables before the race, and the way she looked coming back from Auckland, because she was a bit jaded after that trip, and Mark didn't race her out here on the Thursday night. He spelled her, which was a real smart move. But the way she was presented tonight was she was in magnificent shape.
What about this game of harness racing? You've been in it, all your working life, if you like. You've always loved it. You're a Canterbury man. To be at Addington Raceway, the home of harness racing, winning a New Zealand Bloodstock race, pretty cool, isn't it?
It's cool, and it's cool to meet the people here. I mean, we're in the bar here, and the normal people around the place, they come up to you, and it's just amazing. She's actually captured the public's imagination, this little filly, and it's just good fun. It's good fun for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's good fun, all right. Michael, she's outstanding. Takes her place on Monday in the next heat of the Dunstan Horsefeeds Sire Stakes. It's heat number 4. Comes up with barrier 4. Treacherous Gal out at 7. Kalua Flyby in town out of barrier 8. Artie by the Seaside from 3. So she looks like she'll probably go forward again with Love Struck drawn outside her in 5.
Yeah, what'll be interesting is whether they want to hand to Love Struck, the stablemate, and not only give her chance, but of course give Millwood Nike the chance to come around Love Struck in the straight. In this sort of race, you would suggest there'll be a couple dropping off at the 400, so there would be the potential there Millwood Nike could still come out and win. Lead or trail, I think she's an absolute certainty, so you add her to your multis. Kalua Flyby is qualified for the final. She won her heat at Christchurch, at Cambridge, so she won't need to be doing anything too heroic, Greg, and she's actually a speed horse, better driven with the sit. So don't expect her to be getting too involved, I would think. So she'll win again, Millwood Nike, unless something bizarre happens, Greg. And as Frank said, I'm quite impressed by Frank's knowledge of horses and his viewing of them, but a lot of people who deal with athletes have that ability. She does look more like a 3-year-old than a 2-year-old, so this is all bonus stuff, but it's big bonus stuff.
Yep, absolutely it is. Looking forward to that heat on Monday. And just on the odds, so the feature races are out now, but Matt Peden telling me for the rest of the card they'll be out at 1:30 on Friday afternoon. So if you want to multi-sum through Addington on Friday night, you will be able to do so. Bred by Katie Carville, Millwood Nike continues to fly. Let's go to the 2-year-old trotting feature, the third of the New Zealand bloodstock races out of Addington last Friday night. Gee, this is a good bunch of horses, Michael. A really good win by Southern Diamond, who trailed its stablemate Hellberg throughout. But, gee, there's some talent here. The Dunn pair wide out, making up some good ground. Looking forward to these races as they go forward.
Yeah, well, this is probably the crop out of all the crops that was going to be best suited by the change of seasons, because 2-year-old trotting races in May used to be just higgledy-piggledy with 4 horses trotting and 6 galloping. Obviously, these horses, while they're still 2, are actually 6 months older than that. And we're seeing, for that reason, horses who are racing significantly faster, but also trotting all the way. So, yep, I think he's a pretty good horse. What it all means heading forward, I don't know, but a great double for the night for Scott and Barry. And Dennis Thompson, of course, is a guy you know well. Karen used to drive horses for him a long time ago. Those colours have often been associated with a good horse. He might have another one here, Greg, although it's only a 2-year-old trotter. It could be around for an awfully long time.
Yeah, he said in his speech post-race that he's had too many trotters. Of course, the colours that go all the way back to We Win, the Thompson colours. Great to see them to the fore. One over to line goes to a Lone Star Sire Stakes heat at Addington on Friday night. So looking forward to seeing it again. And stablemate Kiss and Run is also in that race and was excellent in that contest. Michael, the Neville Fillies heat that we get to see at Ashburton on Monday, True Fantasy gets her chance to bounce back?
Yeah, had a heart fibrillation last time, which gave the punters a heart attack. She just dropped out. It was ugly. But the most important news is that the rhythm to the heart came back that night. So when they have a heart for it, what you don't want is them being all stuffed up the next day. So the heart came back into its rhythm, so therefore there's A, no damage, but B, the horse isn't too distressed. So she went to the trials last week, and Mark is confident you'll see a better version of her this week. She's drawn slightly wideish on the front line, but it's not an awfully strong race. Couple of fillies here are tired, Greg. Couple of fillies here are starting to feel the effects of what's been an awfully long year. Like, it feels like 2 years ago since True Fantasy won the Northern Oaks. It feels like an age. And one big factor out of this crop, of course, is that Artie's Express is gone for the season. So real tragedy for Team Telfer and for the owner, because she's a good filly. And I think the best of these fillies at this stage of the season. But with her gone, and she will come back to racing, hopefully, True Fantasy looks the best horse in this crop, Greg. But I just think there'll be a little bit of doubt there, not just because of the heart for it, but because of the couple of runs she was beaten before that, but also because it has been such a long last 18 months for her. I still think there won't be people jumping into $1.30, $1.40 about her. I think punters, quite rightly, may be more careful until True Fantasy wins their hearts back.
All right, it is a Magic Monday on Monday. Another quick comment, Michael, on the Newman's Baghdad Tyres Hambletonian Classic. Hot to Trot, Barrier 2, Mystic Max in 1, Paramount Empress, who's been great in her last 2, $8 and $2.50 about Highgrove. Does that interest you? Because his first up run was very good.
It did. I got this race wrong first up. I thought Highgrove would beat Hot to Trot, and I was completely wrong. I don't think he was Hot to Trot in all the favours, and Highgrove had to come wide and was tired the last 200. He loves Ashburton. 2.5 is good enough for me, but I think I underrated Hot to Trot, and from an inside barrier, he gets his chance to beat him again. Really good race. And again, another race which used to be held in February, now it's held in October, and these horses are just significantly better than the February versions of themselves.
The Garrard's Sire Stakes sophomore, we were going to have a look at Street Art, but I think it came out of that race after his impressive win last week. Looking at the market, Michael, $1.70 for Republican Party. I mentioned earlier he was really good last week in the Flying Stakes, and you've also got Franco Mack there, drawn to his inside, so yeah, there'll be a bit of fun and games early on in that one.
Yeah, tactics crucial here. Franco Mack wants to stay in front. Republican Party's life becomes a lot tougher, but Franco Mack has been trailing and has been good, although it has been trading stablemates. So this is crucial. Tactics are everything. And I hope Trackside has somebody on track so they can ask Natalie Rasmussen, what are you going to do here? Because, Greg, this is a race where if Republican Party is running to the front, it's, for me, maximum bet job stuff. If it's not running to the front, it's not. So that's that race crucially. We might even try and get them on SENZ Radio, one of the team reps, on Sunday to try and give you that information, because information is key. But of all the races this week, this is the information race that's most important, Greg.
All right, there'll be a lot of multis playing on Monday. Many of them will be through Darling Me. This is what she did fresh up to them at Addington Raceway. She's a brilliant mare, this by Sweet Lou, out of the wonderful New Zealand Cup winning mare in Adore Me. She's won now 12 races, Michael. She's pretty dominant here in the end over the likes of Kikarangi Blue. I did like the finishing burst of the two-time ladyship winner in Stylish Memphis. There was nothing wrong with the way she got home, but she draws outside Darling Me. She's $1.45 for this week. You're $9 for Stylish Memphis. They're clearly the two best in it. Manhattan's in it. Life's a Beach is a good horse. La Rosa's performed up to a good level, but surely it's her race to lose, Darling Me.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I think she's got a lot of respect now too, so if Tim Williams decides to go forward, he might even get the lead. I'm not saying that will happen, but when you get that level of respect, you can do that. Steve Telfer told me last week the two horses they had which wintered well and came back significantly better were Artie's Express and Darling Me. And you saw that there. Not sure about the other favourite, Stylish Memphis. I thought she was okay last week. I know the trials have been a little bit higgledy-piggledy leading up to it. I'm not sure she's ready to be driven to her best advantage. I think they'll get her back, but I just think Darling Me advantage her by quite some margin, as the market would suggest.
All right, massive day there. Magic Monday. Good luck to the club. The Ashburton Club have been good supporters of the Box C.
Just on that, Greg, by the way, Harness Racing New Zealand getting behind it too. So they'll have a special lift out on Friday, previewing all the races, selections, all that sort of stuff. They're getting right behind it. This is a big day. I hope everybody else does too. And we'll be covering it extensively on the radio, 11 o'clock on SENZ on Sunday morning. Massive preview of the big day.
Looking forward to that. With Garrards, let's go across the Tasman and find Zeus Bromack doing the business at Menangle. Strong finishing burst from him in 149.4. Out of this race though, Michael, I Cast No Shadow, a one-time New Zealand Cup aspirant, parked out there, ended up back in the field, and another ex-Kiwi trained by Jason Grimson in Firefox was behind it. Look, he's always been a fast horse, has Zeus Bromack, and he was just a little bit too good. That's Ultra Orlando flashing into third as well.
Yeah, spoke to Paul Fitzpatrick about Zeus. Now, he's the horse, obviously, who was formerly with Zach Butcher years ago. He will head to the Inter-Dominions, so he may well go to the Len Smith Mile. That's Saturday week. They have Breeders' Challenge finals night at Menangle. And then he will head to the Inters. That race qualified him for the Inters. He got the golden ticket. Spoke to Cam Hart about I Cast No Shadow. He said, I have no idea what happened there. Clearly, that's not him. Also spoke to Cam about Majestic Cruiser's standing start trial last week. Very happy. Majestic Cruiser's in the first race at Menangle, race 1. First race on Saturday over 2,300 metres. Then they have the option to go to the Len Smith Mile. Then they can fly into Auckland and catch that same flight down to its copy. That's going to be on the Tuesday flight. So that makes things a lot easier for him, Greg. He can go flight, rather than having to truck all the way down the island. So Majestic Cruiser, Cam Hart's words to listen to. This horse is better than last campaign. Last campaign, he beat Self Assured in the Messenger and, of course, won the Blacks Are Fake.
Yeah, look, he's an outstanding horse, particularly over the longer journey. We always like to celebrate those who grab their first win, and last week it was the turn of Leah Hibble. We got Jo Stevens out and about, as she is invariably at all the Northern Harness meetings, to cover this one for us. So let's celebrate Leah's first win.
Del Shannon by a couple, true story. Our Pegasus Pearl is coming after this leader now. It's Del Shannon, our Pegasus Pearl, 2 lengths away and starting to charge. Del Shannon, our Pegasus Pearl, Del Shannon. Here's a wonderful night for Leah Hibble. She gets her first winning drive here with Del Shannon. Good on you.
Leah, you must have been stoked. This horse looked like a good winning chance on paper, and you got an absolute flyer off the tapes and a really great run.
Thank you. Yeah, no, he was awesome. I think a bit funny around a little bit when we were walking around, but got a good standing start away and just flew really. The race just planned out for us, 3 back and then pulled out, got to the front, really suited him real well. Found the rhythm and just kept going. I was very lucky to get that nice trip.
Of course, he was a nice winner last start, and it was a pretty repeat performance. When he got to the front, I thought it was race over, and you must have been feeling the same, were you?
I got to that 100 and I was trying not to jump too much and got to the 4 and I was just praying that I didn't overshot it too much, but he just kept trying for me and just put best foot forward today.
Now, you have been driving for a little while, just with limited opportunities. This first winning drive must have been something that you've imagined plenty of times before. It must be so exciting to get it tonight.
Oh, it's amazing, and it's definitely a big shout out to Nikki Pilcock for giving me lots of opportunities. Really, even if I haven't driven perfect, she's just put me back on, and it's always really helpful. And of course the owners too, you know, it comes down to them as well, putting you on, and my sponsors, Broden Lodge, definitely.
And a great boss.
A great boss.
She did already say that, Nikki.
Yeah, no, definitely awesome. Hopefully more to come.
Good on you, Leah. Definitely more to come, I'd say. Well done.
Thank you.
So congratulations to Leah grabbing win number 1. Continuing our preview, it's a big day down there on Sunday. Tuapeka Cup's always been an excellent contest, and they're celebrating the late Dan Cummings, Father Dan Cummings' involvement in harness racing, his name associated with the Cup down there. Get Up and Dance. Well, he is an excellent racehorse. This, Michael, we saw him win the Graphite Developments Futurity final on show day last year. This was him fresh up. If he goes like this, he'll go pretty close to winning the Tuapeka Cup, which this year's worth $25,000.
Yeah, he's a wicked horse. Went about 3.7 or 3.8 when he won that Futurity last year. Trained by someone, a lot of people who watch the show know that I think is going to be an outstanding trainer in New Zealand for decades to come. So, yep, he'll be my tip, and great to see Father Dan being remembered, even if the Tuapeka Cup is these days no longer on his own home base at going to Invercargill. Special man. And therefore it has some extra kudos and specialness about it, that race.
Yep, the Tuapeka Lodge Tuapeka Cup, pretty appropriate there, isn't it? Also, Robbins Playboy resumes after an Australian campaign, so really interesting to see how he performs. I think he's a 2-time winner of the race. Short break for us. On the other side, we've got our competition winner that'll be going to Ashburton on Monday, a new competition for Kaikoura, just the 1 week for you to be able to enter into that, and our best bets of the week. All ahead on your box set. In your home straight, in your box seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Last 3 weeks we've had the competition for you to enter into to win a ticket for 4 to go to Ashburton Flying Stakes Day, Magic Monday as it is, and our winner is Brent McEwen. Congratulations to you, Brent. You get the 4 tickets to the Ashburton Lounge, food and drink throughout the day. You'll have a magic day there, I am sure of that. And he and his mates will be attending. He entered all 3 weeks and got the correct question right each time, including last year's winner, which of course was Self-Assured. Before we get into the Kaikoura competition, we also gave you an opportunity to, via one of our sponsors, Harness Link, win the $10,000 trip of a lifetime, celebrating 20 years of Harness Link. Now, they did it in a really unique way. Here it is, the last 400 metres or so. We'll turn it up so you can listen to it. There were 10 finalists, including about 4 Kiwis. Here's Matt Cross calling home the final.
Here's Sammy Kilger getting up the inside. It's running on really powerfully. Jackie Panko late. Sammy Kilger has gone to the lead from Peter Hodgson and Jackie Panko. But it's Sammy Kilger. She's packing her bags for the $10,000 trip of a lifetime. Sammy Kilger won it and beat Bernard McGovern. Third across Lou Haskell, and fourth to go by was Steve Cornwall in the inaugural running of the $10,000 Harness Link 20th anniversary flying mile at the Harness Link Raceway.
So what a great idea that was from the Harness Link team. John Curtin coming up with that brilliant piece of work. Brad Reed's tied in there too, Michael, and Sammy Kilgour, of course, partner of Joshua Dickey. reading a couple of things online suggesting that the Hambo might be the race meeting of choice. But what a cool way to do it. Matt Cross called Sammy home, and they're off on the trip of a lifetime.
And good on John and his team for saying to people, hey, we've been around 20 years, and when you think about the internet 20 years ago, an internet-only website sounded completely crazy, but John's always been an innovator. When you see that and you see Sammy win, you think, well, that's cool, because she's a really awesome young lady in harness racing. Her and Josh will have a great time over there at the Hambo. They'll learn something. So good on John Curtin and his team for doing that. And Greg, with Harness Link, I write a lot of stories for Harness Racing New Zealand, and I tell them, you can just use them. Use them anywhere you want, because like this show, use it and spread the word. Once it's been on Harness Racing New Zealand, use it on Harness Link. I don't care that I don't get paid for that. I don't think anybody should either. Once these stories are in the public domain, honestly, I just spread the word. Well, I'm getting paid by someone else for them. But once they're there,
no doubt.
Exactly, let the love be spread round. You know, it's like the show. I would hope the show was on 20 websites in the world, rather than just one or two. And I think people can sometimes be a bit precious about stuff. The two biggest papers in the country, the Stuff organisation and the Herald, use each other's stories all the time, as long as you attribute them. Yeah. So, I think if Harness Link can be a conduit for that and filter all that information into it and push it out, as long as it's attributed, I think it's got a really important place to play in harness racing worldwide, because people in America, most of them, aren't going to log on to the Herald or HRNZ, Greg. And that's where the importance of something like Harness Link comes in, because a lot of harness racing people just want to read harness racing stuff.
Yep, totally, Michael. Well said. Kaikoura, the iconic meeting that it is. Here's an opportunity for you to win 4 tickets to the Alabar tent on the day. Who won last year's Kaikoura Cup? Of course, the uniqueness of this was it wasn't at Kaikoura due to COVID, but there was a horse that won it 3 times. There he is, Glassy Brigade. Making it really easy for you. Enter the competition, theboxseatnz@gmail.com. Give us your answer, which quite clearly is that horse that won last year's Kaikoura Cup, and you can win those 4 tickets. So, make sure that you can be there. Good luck to Bob Rochford and Ben Smith and the team there from Kaikoura. Michael, they're telling me that they've got 100 caravan sites, all sold out. Mini marquees, pretty much all sold out. They're going to have a huge day up there, and a Cooter's heading their way.
That raises the question, and good luck to the team at Kaikoura, because it's an iconic meeting, and it's just great to have it back after all this COVID stuff we've all been through together. You talk about being sold out. How's Addington going with the ticketing? Like if somebody's watching this show and some of our Australian friends, Greg, want to come across, and it's going to be great to have them here, what's still available? What are your options if you're watching this and you want to go to Cup Day?
Yep. GA, obviously. You can book your tickets online for those. Bacardi on the lawn, which is the old Lindau lawn. There's still tickets available there. Basically all the corporate's gone, Michael. There might be 1 or 2 tickets. Give Joe McMaster a call at Addington or go online and have a look. But there's not many left, mate, because everyone wants to go to the party, which is going to be such a deep race day with all of the group races.
How many people do you think they'll get there? Like, we keep saying this figure of 20,000, which sounds like an awful lot of people. Do you actually think
that's
18?
Real? Yep, somewhere around there. 18 maybe to 20, but I think 18's realistic.
So if someone's watching this in Southland or Melbourne or Mildura or whatever, and they want to come, are you saying basically there's only those
It'll be
tickets
sold
left?
out, mate. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay, so they basically better get hold of these things now.
Yep.
I just don't want people watching
now,
the show and wanting to go to Christchurch and booking a hotel and going to Christchurch and going, ugh, and then they'll ring you on the Tuesday morning and annoy you.
And say, help. Yes. Has happened before, Michael, but it will be sold out. I have absolutely no doubt about that. The media coverage and the likes of SENZ being on track, and it's going to be enormous, mate. It really is. So
cool.
Can't wait for that. All the details at the Kaikoura website. Just Google Kaikoura Trotting Club, and you'll see the details for their big meeting there. And good luck entering that competition. What about where we're racing around New Zealand this weekend? Because there's some terrific meetings. 9 races there at Alexandra Park. 5:46. You get to see the defending IRT New Zealand Cup winner copy that, and a potential candidate for this year, Hot and Treacherous. 11 races at Addington on Friday night. Good program. The likes of Crew going around. The Tuapeka Cup, of course, with Tuapeka Lodge, and Ashburton on Monday. Magic Monday, huge day for them. 11 race program underway at 12:12. The last is just before 6 o'clock in the New Zealand Bloodstock Air Freight Ashburton Flying Stakes. As it always is, an absolute key lead-up race to the IRT New Zealand Trotting Cup. Right, best bets from last week. Michael, we got our multi in again. The total for the Breast Cancer Foundation, we are sitting on 1,600 after 4 weeks, so going along quite nicely, thanks very much.
Yeah, and we're trying to accrue money, Greg. We're not trying to change the world. Obviously, our selections go to lots of other places, and the Herald and HRNZ as well. So we're not trying to tip you into $6 chances every week. We're trying to make money for the Breast Cancer Society, and it's really important. I think Sevi will win this week. I'm not sure what he's going to pay. The odds aren't open as we're recording this. It might be $1.40, it might be $1.80. I would like the second one a lot more, but I still think he'll win.
Yep, I reckon he'll go pretty close too. He's part of the multi for our hand milking team as well. Double delight into Sevi for them and for me. I think Beckham will win that size stakes heat. If he's going to go on and win the final on the second Tuesday in November, he's going to go very close to winning that heat. So that's race 8, number 6 on Monday. Don't forget about the TAB promotions, Michael. They're giving us every opportunity to make money. The no deductions, the guaranteed bet, which you were on about for probably 18 months, guaranteed to pay $2,000, I think you said, was it not? They're doing some really good things. All of those opportunities for you each and every harness race. The power plays, some of them are well worth having a crack at.
Yeah, harness racing's finally getting the deal it deserves out of the TAB. The TAB went through a period post-COVID where they just tried to save the business, and they did that. But now Mike Todd is the new boss, and he's empowered the betting team to have a lot more options, and it's working, and they're giving head-to-heads on the bigger meetings. Finally, with the punters promise, the $2,000 guaranteed to win and the no deductions, they're giving people a real chance. Some big news is going to come up in the next week about the TAB. We'll touch on that in the next couple of weeks with lots of other
Just
things.
explain that to me a little bit. I know you did talk about it on weigh-in, but explain to me the potential there.
I think the news won't come out till this weekend, Greg, but I think the codes are going to be asked whether they support a massive TAB initiative, and a massive one, which could change the way we all bet. So at the moment, we're just trying to talk to the code heads and say, are you supportive of this? And then the TAB, I think, will go to the government and the DIA and say, we want this thing to happen. And I think heading forward, it could be massive for the way that people in this country bet. But most importantly, it could be huge for the amount of money the TAB is able to push back into not just racing, but sport. Because at the moment, Greg, we lose a lot of money offshore. That figure is banded around at about $650 million bet by people in New Zealand with offshore bet makers. Maybe that's about to change. I don't know that's for sure, but that could be an initiative which is going to be accelerated in coming weeks, and we will keep you updated on the shows we're involved in and on the radio and in print so that people know the best they can, Greg. But before then, that's a long way away. Next week, the ATC members. There'll be a lot of hubbub. There's a bit of toxicity in that club, which has been there for a while, and it's been really disappointing. But don't get lost in the fog here. They need to get this sorted, Greg. It's crucial for the development of the ATC heading forward, but it's also crucial for the industry in this country. I hope they vote to accept that offer. I'm sure Harness Racing New Zealand will approve it, and I hope we can put this very dark period in the history of Auckland Trotting Club and harness racing in this country behind us.
All right, look forward to all of that information next week. You won't be with us. Matthew Cross will be for next week's show, and we'll have Gary Woodham on to talk about what happened at the annual conference last week and also his thoughts around some of those TAB plans. It's an evolving situation at the moment, but an exciting one just the same. That's been your box seat for the week. I'll catch you in 7 days' time. We'll see Michael in 2 weeks. The Box Seat brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Harness Link for your worldwide harness coverage. New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred where winning begins. Brecon Farms. Stonewall Stud. IRT, it's your horse and our passion. Australasian-wide Garrard's Horse and Hound. Renwick Farms. Lincoln Farms. Harness Racing New Zealand. And the clubs Addington Ashburton, Alexandra Park and Cambridge.